This hardware episode contains scenes that are unsuitable for younger viewers and people of a nervous disposition. You have been warned. But no, seriously, some images may be alarming later on. We're frantically testing some spooky Sonic ROM hacks tonight, ranging from, oh my word, this is unbelievable, to, oh my word, this is unbelievable. So those clips you just saw, that was emulation. What we want to know is, do these work on real hardware? So we have 4 games to validate, and we're kicking off with... of course. Is it truly Halloween without Sonic.EXE? Don't get too excited, this isn't an ordinary Sonic ROM hack, as I covered that in previous years. Yet this demo take on the bloodshot-eyed hedgehog is not bad. We have an alternate album to listen to, and everything has been drenched in my favourite colour. I'm not malicious, I promise. He has to spin dash and can drop dash too by just tapping the jump button rather than holding it to mid-air. This works well. Or it can get frustrating quickly. There are a few objects with a graphical change, but otherwise it's just Sonic's first outing all over again. Now, I'm not sure if this is the artist's intention, but the music sounds like it's corrupted in Marble. However, an emulator confirms it's not a hardware malfunction. I enjoyed Labyrinth's new tune, but the rest of the songs were okay at best. Sonic as an executable does get some extra frames in his animation, which I highly appreciate, and he has a new stance for the results screen. Nevertheless, this poses a soft lock at the end of Scrap Brain 2, making this hack undefeatable, unless you enable level select, of course, meaning you now lost the emeralds you obtained, but at least it's now completable. Does Sonic ROM.EXE demo work on real hardware? Seeing as the soft lock is not a hardware issue and is due to a bug in the code, I'm going to say yes. Not a bad start, and the next showcase features the final appearance of Sonic.EXE tonight. But he means grotesque business in this one. With Sonic SMD, the Hacking Contest 2024 edition, you're in control of Tails for the first round. It's Green Hill again. Ugh. Albeit, it takes a turn for the worse pretty rapidly. Even this life icon is creeped out. And truth be told, so am I a tad. The fox then accidentally bumps into the horrifying mammal, and we get presented with my VCR on the blink. Suddenly, Angel Island. It's almost intact for the first half, but I don't think the creator anticipated me flying up to this invincibility box and glitching out to Caterkiller Jr. But I digress. The stage migrates into a flat terrain, and now you're running for your dear life whilst being chased by the creature of the hour. And if you don't outrun him, you're then his lunch with an ear-grating scream. Abruptly, Knuckles. Ooh! Though, if you do escape via the big ring as Tails, it doesn't care. You actually get more content for failing. But moving past that, you're now doing Act 1 of Eggman's Base, and it's almost a carbon copy, bar some monitor replacements. And then at the end, whoa, that one didn't have any... Oh, I'm staying away from that. Bye, see ya, I'm out of here. No way, no. What is... Oh! You know what, I'll go back anyway then. Nice try, bitch. Oh god, it knows what I'm like. Except for these odd floating ring of rings, you're forced to go west and into battle with Sonic. Hey. Oh, nope, it was the possessed antagonist, and good gravy! And that's the game. Unlike Tails, Knuckles has no opportunity to get away. Sorry, that was a blatant lie. You can cause an error trap instead if you wish. This happened once on my Japanese Tower of Power and twice on my PAL Model 1. I'm not exactly sure what triggered it, but all 3 times were before the rapture set in and it's never repeated. I guess I just got unlucky, because out of the 11 test reports, only 3 times did it crash exactly here. Does Sonic SMD work on real hardware? I'm going to say yes, because the interrupts weren't common enough for the partial category. Right, that's enough creepypasta for one evening. Here's something more traditional for the occasion. Sonic Halloween. It gives you exactly what it says on the tin. Bone-chilling stages, eerie badniks, and music that pierces your ears. They're not all terrible by any means, and every one of them is recognisable, but each song leaves a lot to be desired, and is the weakest aspect of this hack. Don't get me wrong, everything else I was pleasantly astonished at. You'll be forgiven if you assume this is a paint job over Sonic 1, but each level has an extra unique gimmick, from walking through spike blocks and being able to access hidden areas, to gaining high ground to avoid lava earthquakes, unless you have skill issues like me. Midnight Castle features my favourite trick of the whole demonstration, zone flipping. This is portrayed right out with Sonic Heroes, and it works splendidly well, adding a new challenge to the classic playthrough. Ghastly ties just makes visibility harder, and that green is just blah to look at. There were 1 or 2 extra bosses too, which were easy to pick up and a great contest, but some felt lazy by just adding an extra enemy, which didn't feel like a bother. I was able to complete the game with all Chaos Pumpkins, and I ran into no technical faults, and unlike the previous 2 hacks, the music here is optimized on all 50Hz consoles. Does Sonic Halloween work on real hardware? Absolutely. 3 for 3, and next is Hellfire Saga, the reason why you're here. And something disruptive may happen when playing on real hardware. Sorry. Now in its final form, this is probably the most polished Sonic ROM hack we've had for a long time. Formerly being a Sonic 3 and Knuckles game, you wouldn't be able to tell with its elegant art style, alternative layouts, storytelling, interactive cutscenes, and more. Okay, so Sonic has its traditional skill set from the original, and unpopular opinion time, I find the Insta-Shield way more beneficial than the drop dash, which is sprinkled in every modification as of late. The former ability is useful for the type of enemies we oppose, like the undead dog, the axe-wielding maniac, and I dread to speak my mind here. A lot of these foes really do go for the kill, which some make you recoil, so that extra protection helps, and satisfying when you make their guts explode. Elemental shields make a return, which you're going to need, as the ring system acts like hit points. You can replenish them, obviously, but they don't scatter when you take a setback. So you can't be damage boosting throughout this game, and you certainly cannot be chilling in the bloodbath, because even these drain Sonic's energy. Oh, come on, that's tight! That's what she said. Deaths are more common in the boss battles because, oh boy, these encounters are out of this world. Like Disney World. I'd argue there are more boss meetings than there are enemies. Don't twist my words. I'm not complaining because, oh man, this is where Hellfire Saga shines. The production quality is top notch, and these are challenging but fair, and you can always alter the difficulty in the options if you need to. The grand finale is met with Eggman, who made a deal with the devil, and we're faced with a snake. He fires missiles, laser beams, and tries to slam dunk us. It's a good fight, but then phase 2 initiates, and holy heck! A trippy vortex, resizable gremlinized Eggman with a scrolling background, with so much action going on in the scene? You would think this was running off the 32X, or at least getting some assistance from the Mega CD, but no, this is pure Mega Drive. I'm gobsmacked they pulled this off. Sure, it can get laggy at times, but it's outstanding nonetheless. Despite many being borrowed from other titles, the music is bumping. Having said that, it's quite loud, so I recommend lowering the volume slider to 70% to avoid any clipping. Sonic saves the day, and that's Hellfire Saga. But I did notice something quite peculiar that only occurs when running on real hardware. The pre-final boss has these combing artifacts on the left-hand side of the screen. It's not too much of a concern, yet I'm afraid when Robotnik hugs the side, he glitches out very badly. My Japanese tower of power proves these lines still exist, although the boss didn't disturb us much here. All other examinations agreed with the Japanese findings. Except for both of my European consoles, which were virtually clean throughout the scene. And with that in mind, does Hellfire Saga work on real hardware? Of course it works! I was being pedantic there, but this is a hardware video! Damn these creators making all of their games work for the real deal! I'm upset that this video is a clean sweep! You know what? No more Halloween! I fancy playing my favourite Sonic game just to chill out. Just not a Sonic Tails and Knuckles.